go ahead and get started here. So today we have Nikki Barrington in. She's an MD, PhD student at Rosalind Franklin University of Medicine and Science. She received her BS from the University of California, Santa Barbara, and her MPH from the University of California, Davis. She's the co-founder and director of operations for the National Association of Interprofessional Health Mentorship and Education and Service. We'll go ahead and give you the floor. You can imagine a big warm welcome there, but I don't think we're ever going to hear anyone. But yeah.
No worries. Thank you so much. Like Darian said, my name is Nikki, and I am a MD PhD student at Rosalind Franklin University. I just defended my PhD back in May, and I am currently a fourth year medical student applying for residency. I have been involved with a really amazing organization, a nonprofit called Brain and Spine Group well, this will be my fifth or sixth year now. Um, and Brain and Spine Group houses NERV, which is the program that I'm here to talk to you about today. NERV stands for Neurosurgery Education and Research Virtual Experience Group, and it is probably one of our largest programs within Brain and Spine Group. But Brain and Spine Group also does, now that we're fully post-COVID, in-person training camps for neurosurgical and other types of skills around the country. We've done ones most recently in Cincinnati and Buffalo, New York, and we are repeating those this year along with another one in Minnesota. And we also do online self-paced education courses in the neurosciences, kind of similar to what you're doing here in Brain Turns. So Dr. D'Amico, who you all know, has been a really amazing mentor and faculty advisor for us in the NERV program. And so he wanted me to come talk to you all about what we do in NERV. And we also have a really exciting new program that's kind of the pipeline program going into NERV for people at the undergraduate level that we're starting this year. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well. But also, this probably will only take like 20-30 minutes to get through. So there'll be plenty of time at the end for questions. But also, if anybody has questions about anything that you heard about me getting your MPH or doing a dual degree program or getting a PhD, anything like that, I'm also happy to answer those questions. It doesn't have to be strictly NERV related. Okay, so like I mentioned, NERV is a national virtual interest group that is supported by Brain and Spine Group. And our goal is to supplement medical school education and provide a forum for shared objective mentorship for students that are interested in all kinds of neurospecialties. It started in neurosurgery, but we have people that are interested in neurology and psychiatry as well, or people that are like me, doing or want to do a PhD in the neurosciences. So probably more aptly would be called the Neurosciences Education Research Virtual Experience Group at this point, but most of the students are interested in neurosurgery, like those of you that are here on the call for Brain Turns. We focus specifically on disadvantaged students that are interested in applying to those specialties, like I said, but we have a very broad definition of what disadvantaged means. So it's not only people that are a minority in those fields, whether it's, part of a racial ethnic minority, a gender minority, part of the LGBTQ community, all of those things, but also students who don't have a home residency program, or a national organization chapter for the specialty that they're interested in at their home institution, because that can make it really hard to make the connections that you need to get into these fields, or get research opportunities relating to the field that you're interested in. So just like with Brain Turns, we're trying to give people that are in medical school the opportunity to do those things and get connected to the field, especially those that are underrepresented in medicine or their specialty of choice, or are first generation medical student or first generation student, even at the college level. Anybody that maybe otherwise would have a hard time getting access to people at this level is what we're trying to reach. So our membership includes students that are currently enrolled in their first through third year of medical school or in research fellowship years. Or we also have people like me that have been involved for a long time and continue to be involved as fourth year students. The goal of NERV is to work on a few different competency domains. So we focus on research skills and scholarly activity. So I'll go into this as I go, but several different research teams that are led by different faculty members that are involved in neurology or neurosurgery. and students conduct research through those research groups. Excuse me. Um, so mostly that is relating to neurology and neurosurgery. So we often have residents, including probably and faculty. A lot of the people that you may have seen here from Lenox Hill have helped us out a lot with that. Um, and they'll come and talk to us about, for example, bedside neurosurgical procedures, and various clinical skills that medical students should know about. We also focus on professional development, so we help students prepare to apply for residency, um, and have various panels throughout the year that focus on, how to, when you go on to sub-internships, so that's what medical students do in their fourth year to get letters of recommendation and get prepared to apply for residency in their field of choice, how to do well on those and get those letters, and just how to put your best foot forward when you're applying for residency. And then also just technical skills of how to research involves a lot of different skills in terms of knowing biostatistics or knowing how to manage large data sets, collect large data sets. Um, and so we focus on those skills as well. And I see a question in the chat. I'll talk a little bit in the end about how and when to apply to this program. And it is only designed for medical students, but like I mentioned, we have a new program that we're starting this year that is designed for people at the undergraduate or pre-med level, that is going to very much mirror what we do in nerve. So if this is something you're interested in, you can start in our early neurosciences development program as an undergraduate and then continue on in nerve when you get to med school. So we have opportunities for everybody. A little bit about what our cohort looks like. We just recruited our cohort for this year about 6 weeks ago. And this is our biggest cohort yet. We have 64 members total, 38 of them are new, 12 of them are returning, and we also have 14 student leaders representing 43 different institutions across the country. Everything we do is virtual, so we meet twice a month to cover all of those topics that I just mentioned. So anybody really anywhere in the US is able to join us, just as you're seeing here with Brain Turns. Um, I don't have the stats on our newest cohort yet, but our cohort from last year was about 65% MD students, 27% DO students, and 7% IMGs. Um, and 47% of them were women, and 70% of them did not have a home neurosurgery program. And most of those institutions also don't necessarily have a home neurology or psychiatry program because a lot of them are smaller schools, like the school that I come from doesn't have a home program in neurology or neurosurgery, or they're osteopathic med schools that often also don't have an affiliated program, residency program in those specialties. As far as our faculty affiliations, I already mentioned that Dr. D'Amico and a lot of the Dr. White, and many of the residents from Lenox Hill and Northwell have been very supportive of NERV over the years. We also have faculty from Duke, Cornell, and most recently Buffalo that have joined us. And we get funding support from the Mayfield Education and Research Foundation as well as the Integra Foundation. And that's for both our educational activities as well as for NERV. Um, This is the growth of our nerve program over the last few years. So you can see that it's grown quite dramatically since it first started. Nerve was sort of created to address, similar to brain turns, to address the need for opportunities like this during the pandemic, and then has just sort of grown from there. And now we're able to do more things in person when we get the opportunities, like meet up in person at some of the larger meetings, like Neurosurgical Society or Neurology Society meetings, where a lot of our members will be presenting research. But like I said, most of our content is still virtual. This is just a map of our membership from last year. So you can see we were started at institutions more or less in the Midwest, but we have a lot of faculty support on the East Coast. So a lot of our membership is kind of focused on the Midwest and the East Coast, but we are expanding more and more into the South and Central United States as well as the West Coast. We have several students that are from medical schools in Puerto Rico as well. So to answer the question that came up in the chat currently, in order to make sure that we have sufficient resources for everybody, NERV, as well as our early neurosciences development program, is open to students that are based in the US. So we do have some Like I mentioned, international medical graduates that are based in the US, they're already working in the US or they have a research position or various things that they may be doing in the US. But for the time being, we only accept students that are based in the US. We want to expand that in the future. We know there's definitely a need for that with international students. We just want to get more faculty and resident support before we do that. So we make sure we have enough resources for everybody and that everybody gets the mentorship that they need. Okay. So I just said this, but all of our members are enrolled in a U.S. medical school that are interested in one of those specialties, the neurosciences, neurology, psychiatry, or neurosurgery, like the people here today. But people that are international graduates that are located in the U.S. are eligible to apply. People complete an online research methods course at the beginning of the year, like I said. So it kind of gets everybody on the same page in terms of their research skills because we accept people from all backgrounds. So you don't have to already know how to do research to be involved with NERV or to be on our research teams. We try to teach our students all of the skills that they need to kind of be on a level playing field in terms of how to do the types of research that we do. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to talking about the research teams. And then we meet twice a month for to discuss those other topics, so the professional development topics, clinical knowledge sessions, and then there's also our individual research teams also have meetings throughout the year. And we expect our members to lead at least one project of their own and then contribute to other people's projects as they're able. So ideally, as I'm sure you guys have seen through some of these other sessions, neurosurgery is really values innovation, and there's a lot of research going on in neurosurgery. And so we really want to empower people to take a research idea, research question from the very beginning and figure out how they're going to answer that question, what methods they're going to use, collect the data, analyze the data, and then get it to the point where you're submitting an abstract to a conference and ideally submitting it for publication to a peer-reviewed journal. So the idea is to really guide people through the research process because um, I mean, at least from my own experience as a pre-med and even in med school, unless you are lucky enough to get certain research opportunities, often nobody really explains to you how to do the process of research. And so the idea of NERV is to really give medical students the opportunity to learn how to do this from beginning to end. And hopefully those are skills that they can take with them moving on through residency and as faculty members, and then mentor other people to do the same. As I mentioned, everybody in NERV participates on one or more of our research teams, which are led by the folks that I'm about to talk about here. So we have the Radwanski Panulo research team. So Ryan Radwanski is the founder and CEO of Brain and Spine Group, and he is the chair of our board of directors. And Susan Panulo is at Cornell, and she is a longtime supporter of Brain and Spine Group as well. And she is double board certified in both neurology and neurosurgery. And this team focuses a lot on general neurosurgery topics, some neurotrauma topics, and a lot of neuroeducation. So a lot of our research kind of looking at our own programs and how successful we are at educating students has come out of this group. And like I mentioned, a lot of just general neurosurgery topics as well. Um, Dr. D'Amico's research team, you guys may be able to kind of guess what things he does research on based on your previous experience with him, but a lot of neuro-oncology or neurosurgical oncology research and neurotechnologies. So you may have heard Dr. D'Amico at some point talk about brain mapping and connectomics, augmented reality in the operating room, a lot of AI-driven things as well. So a lot of his research is focused on that. And our students really love working with him because he is very involved in the research process and really helps students get the mentorship they're looking for. We also have Dr. Alvin Ukachukwu, who is the director of neurosurgery research for the Duke Global Neurosurgery and Neurology program. So a lot of his research focuses on global neurosurgery. So looking at one example I can think of is different procedures and how the outcomes may be different or carried out differently in different countries, particularly countries in sub-Saharan Africa, but also looking at outcomes in the US as well. So any kind of health disparities research relating to neurosurgery and neurology, both in the US and in other countries. So a lot of our students that are interested in kind of global or international health will end up on Dr. Ukachukwu's team. And then lastly, our newest research team is with Dr. Rosalind Lai, who is at University at Buffalo. And she is a cerebrovascular and endovascular neurosurgeon by training. So a lot of her research focuses on that. And in particular, focuses on sex differences in cerebrovascular pathologies and how there may be differences in outcomes when you're talking about things like brain aneurysms or arteriovenous malformations. And she's also very active with her team and really provides a lot of mentorship to her students. So we're very fortunate to have added her this past year. So all of our students, as I mentioned, will serve on one or more of those research teams and work towards completing projects that are in those areas. That being said, we don't limit students to these areas. A lot of our students are also interested in functional neurosurgery or spine or other neurology related topics. And so we do the best we can to try to connect students with mentors that can help them with that research. A lot of the research we do across our teams tends to be more clinical. And by that, I mean looking at clinical or post-operative outcomes because that data is often easier to acquire. So we're talking about systematic reviews and meta-analyses of papers that are already published and out, or gathering clinical data, sometimes from a single institution, or using large data sets that are available, for example, through Medicare or Medicaid, where you can assess patient outcomes that way. Some of our students do basic science or bench research through their own institution and are kind of able to bring that into Nerve a little bit. Since we are a virtual group and we're spread across so many different institutions, we don't currently have a lab space of our own, although we would love to do that one day. But we do try to support as much as we can students doing all types of research. This is just an example. Don't feel like you have to read through all of this, but of our curriculum for the last year, just to give you an idea of what we do. As far as professional development, for example, like I mentioned, we have sessions on how to write your personal statement for residency, how to complete your residency application, how to use social media for networking, as we all know that's becoming very, very common. And then we'll also have guest speakers like the one you see on there, augmented reality in the OR. That was Dr. D'Amico. Um, for those that are interested in doing more research, we often have panels on how to take a research year in medical school or multiple research years or dual degrees like I've done. And then we also have clinical topics like neuroradiology, neuroemergencies, bedside neurosurgical procedures, etc. So it's really a good mix throughout the year of professional development and clinical knowledge. And then, like I mentioned at the beginning of the year, we have our research course that students can go through to kind of all get on the same page about how they can take their project from the idea stage all the way to publication. Again, don't expect anybody to read this, but this is purposely long to give you an idea of how many different projects we have going on at once, because we have so many students that are interested in so many different things, and all of them come in with a research proposal kind of in mind, and we help them adjust that along the way and try to, as I said, take that hopefully to the publication stage. So these are just a snippet of the different projects that we have had going on in the past, and some are going on currently. And then as far as some of our accomplishments, this still needs to be updated. There's probably quite a few more that could be put on here now, but we have probably at this point closer to 40 something publications. But at the time that this was written, across 16 different journals. So lots of different research topics, as I mentioned, and not all of these are one of the ones that is covered on a research team necessarily. So like I mentioned, we've had people do spine and orthopedics research. We've had people do pediatric neurosurgery. So just because you don't necessarily see a specific faculty member dedicated to that here doesn't mean that our students aren't doing research in that. And we've had lots of matches across all different areas, neurosurgery, neurology, orthopedic surgery, general surgery. A lot of our students, as they come through, maybe they came in because they were interested in neurosurgery and they decide to apply neurology, or they find that they are a better fit for orthopedic surgery or ENT. So it's not, as I said, not strictly for students interested in neurosurgery. And a lot of times the connections that people make here kind of help them find their path after medical school into whatever field, whether it's surgical or non-surgical. So we're really proud to have representation of nerve students across several different specialties. Um, just an example of one of the publications that um, was published a couple years ago about our program and the successes of our program. So in this, you can see there that at the time of the total nerve cohort, 90% were first generation medical students and 82% attended institutions without a home program. And several of our students contributed to at least two research projects throughout the year. So really, this just demonstrates how there is very much a need for mentorship and research opportunities for medical students, and for those of you that are not quite there yet, as you know, for pre-med students as well, to develop essential research skills and really get connected to these fields. Because I don't have a single doctor in my family. I'm sure most of you are the same way, and uh, the nerve and now our early neurosciences development program and really all of the opportunities available through Brain and Spine Group are designed to help people, just as Brain Turns does, get connected to the medical field and whatever specialty you're interested in, but particularly brain and spine related specialties, so that you can really have that mentorship from the beginning because we know how important that is. So on that topic, our early neurosciences development program is brand new this year. We know that many of you are not at the med student level yet, and we hope that eventually when you get there, you'll join us in Nerve. We recruit a new cohort in Nerve every year. So as I mentioned, we just recruited a new cohort in May. So our next cohort, if you are starting medical school or already in medical school, our next cohort will be recruited sometime around April of next year. I will put all of our information in the chat at the end too, so don't worry about that, as well as our social media handles and all of that, so you can follow us. As far as the early neurosciences development program, we're still recruiting right now. And this is designed for, again, for students of all backgrounds, and we really want to help students that, particularly students that are coming from any kind of a disadvantaged background, get connected to the neuroscience field. So whether that's you already know you're interested in neurosurgery or you think you're interested in neuroscience, whether that's maybe getting a master's or a PhD in neuroscience or any other neuro-related specialty, neurology, ENT, even orthopedics, which is more of the spine, but there and lots of other parts of the body. But as you saw, we connect our students across all different specialties. So but this is designed for students at the undergraduate level that may be wanting to apply for medical school or even other health professions programs. So, physical therapy or any other health professions program that where you may want to sort of specialize in the neurosciences down the road. You're welcome to apply for our early neurosciences program. I'll have the application link in a bit as well. And the purpose of the program is very similar to NERV, to really address gaps in access and opportunity and mentorship for students that are aspiring for careers in the neurosciences. Don't feel like you need to read all of this, but we know that um, the opportunities like this are often limited to people that already have connections in the field. And so we really want to create an inclusive, structured environment where students from all backgrounds can gain the knowledge that they need to thrive across the spectrum of neurosciences careers. So similar to NERV, um, this is an example of the curriculum that we're going to have for the upcoming year. So there's going to be some clinical knowledge, so like our interactive neuroanatomy, and some basic research skills in there as well, mentorship from more advanced students, how to use ChatGPT to help you in your research, for example, and also professional development, like talking about different career pathways, how to work on your personal statement or your resume, and really prepare you to apply for whatever your next step is. So this is our little snippet from our application. So again, like I said about NERV, currently our END program is open to students enrolled at a U.S. college or university. And like NERV, they're going to be meeting twice a month. So we highly encourage anybody that's located in the US to apply. I know that there's a lot of international students that attend Brain Turns, and so feel free to reach out to me because this is something that we'd like to see replicated on an international level, and we're happy to help people do that as well. But like I mentioned, we want to make sure that our resources don't get spread too thin. So that's the reason why we have it based in the US for now. But we are very open to working with other people that want to create a nerve or END like program wherever you're located and kind of help support that and connect faculty and medical professionals across continents. So that's something that we're always happy to help facilitate as well. Um, so that's all of the sort of formal content that I have. I will put everything that you see here in the chat as well in a second. But if I'm happy to take any questions that people have about Nerve or about any career pathway stuff as well.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much. There is one question in the chat right now, and it's just on your decision to pursue an MD, PhD, and then if you could discuss your the topic of your thesis.
Oh, I see it now. I was a little bit of a non-traditional MD PhD student. For those who may not know, because I didn't even know when I started med school really. Um, Dual degree programs are often, not always, but often structured so that you do your first 2 years of med school, and then so those are often your kind of didactic, your classroom-based years, and then your PhD kind of goes in the middle of that, and then you have your third and fourth year of med school when you're on clinical rotations. Mine didn't end up working out that way. I went through my first 3 years of medical school and then started doing some research, like with the intention of just taking a single research year. And during that time, I was the first time I got to work with animal models in research, doing TBI and spinal cord injury research. And I found that I really liked it. I did some research in undergrad, but it was more computational neuroscience. So I didn't really get to do any of the lab-based type of science, and I found that I really liked it, and I wanted that to be part of my career down the road. I wanted to be a physician scientist, and not only practicing medicine, but sort of creating the new knowledge that makes medicine. And so I continued. Was my school was very flexible with me, which was very nice, and I was able to apply for and transfer into my school's dual degree program and complete my PhD just recently. And then that's why I'm now finishing my fourth year of med school, because usually people are coming back to the last 2 years, not the last 1 year. So a little bit unusual that way, but I think that just goes to show that you create your own path in medicine. And a lot of times, if you're willing to ask the right questions, people will maybe more flexible than you think. And there may be more opportunities to you than you would expect. So hopefully that answers that question. And then my thesis was on the contribution of neuroinflammation, particularly mediated by brain resident microglia after following TBI or a concussive injury to the development of Alzheimer's. So I was working with an Alzheimer's mouse model and to use very scientific terms, bonking them on the head and looking at what happened afterwards in the acute and chronic setting to kind of see how different groups of microglia reacted to the injury and what commonalities that had with what we were seeing in Alzheimer's. So basically found that there's some specific activation states of microglia that are unique to both TBI and Alzheimer's that sort of contribute to that progression and may be potential intervention points for groups that have particularly repeat concussions, like athletes, military, even the elderly that have several falls may be susceptible. Um, there may be points at which we can kind of intervene with that neuroinflammatory process to prevent it from turning into dementia syndrome, which isn't just Alzheimer's, but I'm sure a lot of you have been hearing in the media about chronic traumatic encephalopathy and other dementia-like syndromes that are often the result of repeat head injury. So that's what my thesis was on.
Amazing. And then could you talk about your role in Nerve? Like, did you start as just a participant and then work your way up to being in a position where you're giving this talk, or how did that go for you?
Yeah, I started 20, what year is it? 2021. I started as a Nerve member, I think the second year that Nerve was around. And then I started getting involved with Brain and Spine Group more broadly and being involved with our education efforts as well, helping to plan the training camps. And so that's how I came to be kind of in my official title is Director of Research for Brain and Spine Group. And then this is going to be my third year as president of Nerve. Part of it is availability. I've been working on my PhD during this time, so I've had a little bit more you work a ton as a PhD student. It's probably in some way similar hours to being a resident, but you choose when you work. And so there's a little bit more flexibility there. So I was able to um, work around that in order to be as involved with brain and spine group and nerve as I have been the last several years. And I'm very grateful for that opportunity because I've been able to meet so many amazing people and work on a lot of amazing research projects and be involved in the training camps and all of that. So that's kind of has just evolved over time. But I did start off as a member, so I would highly recommend, things like our E&D program or NERV, getting involved as early as you can. And if you like it, stay involved and see what leadership opportunities are there, because that can be a really great way to meet people like Dr. D'Amico. I never would have met him otherwise, because I go to school in Chicago. He's in New York. I don't think I ever would have met him had it not been for NERV. So you never know who you can meet through opportunities like this, which is also why Brain Turns is such an incredible opportunity as well. Um,
Another question in the chat here. What's been the most rewarding part of your involvement with Nerve?
um, oh, there's so many things. I think meeting people and just the community. Because I did the dual degree program, I'm off cycle with the rest of my med school class, which for me has meant that, I don't know as many people from my current med school class. I don't know people that are interested in neurosurgery and neurology as well. So being involved with Nerve has been really a good way to have a huge community across the entire country of students that are interested in the same things that I'm interested in. Um, and I think that's been the most rewarding part, especially going to some of the big research conferences and things like that. I did that earlier this year, and you meet people that you've only worked with virtually. So someone that you may have known somebody for 3 or 4 years, and you finally get to meet them at one of these conferences, and it's just really nice to have that community despite not being necessarily geographically close to these people.
All right. Um, and I forget exactly where you said you were in like applying for residencies positions, but could you talk about that process and how you ruled in or ruled out certain specialties and what you've landed on and such?
Yeah. So I'm in the process, or I guess I haven't turned in my application yet. Those are due in September, but applying for neurosurgery and also considering a little bit of neurology as things have evolved. So I may be applying for a few programs in both specialties and kind of see what happens. But yeah, I would say as far as that process goes, just try to get as much experience as you can. Uh, Oftentimes in medical school, some schools have a third-year neurology rotation, some don't. And particularly if your school doesn't have a home program in neurology or neurosurgery, it may be difficult to get opportunities for a clinical rotation. So really take advantage of opportunities during fourth year for away rotations, because I think that can help a lot in terms of figuring out what you want to do. And I would say really think about two things, lifestyle and the kind of interaction that you want to have with your patients. Everybody that does a brain-related specialty is incredibly smart and just amazing, creative, innovative people. But depending on what your practice setting is and what your specialty is, you're going to have sort of different interactions with your patients, a different level of opportunity to have like a longitudinal relationship with your patients or possibly shorter term relationships with your patients. So just think about what is best for you, um, what kind of personality you have and what you're looking for in terms of your interactions with patients. And then also lifestyle. So, as I'm sure you all know, anything surgical is a really intense lifestyle and it's not for everyone. And so, I think it's really important to kind of check in with yourself and continue having those conversations and realize that there are amazing things you can do in neurology, in psychiatry, in any other brain-related specialty that may not require you to work 80, 90, 100 hours a week. So just depending on where you're at in life, because that's also going to change, changes a ton in your 20s and 30s in terms of what you're looking for out of life and how much, what you kind of want your work-life balance to look like. So just keep that in mind as you go and keep checking in with yourself about what you want, because neurosurgery is an amazing field. but it's a very, very difficult field as well, very intense. And so that's something that you definitely want to think about when you're deciding whether or not you want to apply for that for residency or if something else might be a better fit for you.
All right. Amazing. And could you just talk about your MPH a bit? I think I saw it was in epidemiology. Could be wrong, but just like about your focus on that and what went down there.
Yeah, so I did that a while ago now before med school. I have always had an interest in public health. And so, I'm not gonna, I won't lie to anybody here. I think part of it was that I wanted to be more competitive for medical school, and I thought an MPH was a good way to do that. And that's probably true. But I would say any kind of, if you're considering doing a degree in between undergrad and med school, or even if you're considering a master's as a terminal degree of any kind, just make sure that it's something that you're truly interested in. Like I said, have always had an interest in public health, and I have one of the cool things I've been able to do with Brain and Spine Group and Nerve, as you saw with Dr. Alvin Ukachukwu's research team, is kind of bring those worlds together. A lot of his work has focused on kind of neurological public health and how we can intervene. One perhaps kind of obvious example is like helmet laws and TBIs. Like there are public health interventions for a lot of the pathologies that neurologists and neurosurgeons see. And there's a lot of opportunities for physicians to get more involved in public health as well. And also lots of jobs in public health in general, even if you chose not to pursue med school or pursue some other health professions program. Public health is something that's very much needed right now in terms of keeping the public educated and battling a lot of misinformation that's out there about various public health topics, whether they're neurological or otherwise. So I think it's an incredibly important field. And my emphasis was in epidemiology, which I think was helpful for my later research endeavors, just in terms of learning the biostats and learning kind of the number side of things. So that was kind of why I chose that as an emphasis in my MPH. But I definitely would recommend it for people that are interested in public health and kind of interested in learning about a lot of what physicians do is on the individual level, the physician-patient relationship. But with an MPH, you kind of get to learn about how do we interact at a community level or a systems-based level to try to increase general health of the population.
Um, let's see. There's a question here. Does this Brain and Spine group have any programs open to non-US students? Or maybe just some general advice on how to get involved if you're non-US based?
Yeah, so I forgot to mention this earlier. While we don't have a formal, longitudinal mentorship program for international students, we do usually in the fall, every year, we've started to open general applications to those research teams that I mentioned to international students. So if you are an international student, like I said, I'll put it in the chat in a second, but follow us on social media, because it'll probably be September or October of this year, we'll open our applications and those applications are open to anybody including international students. So you can kind of join the research teams, meet some of these faculty, get involved with some of the nerve students as well. Um, it may be, keep in mind the time zone differences because a lot of those research meetings are held on US time zone. So unfortunately for a lot of our international students, that means, logging on at strange times, but we're always happy to have those people. And so we've been trying to open that up more for international students to get involved.
Okay, that's amazing. I think we'll end it there unless you have any final words, Nikki. Anything for our brain turns before we go?
Um, oh man. I would just say keep doing what you're doing here. That may sound silly, but um, the only way to get opportunities is to join opportunities. So being involved with Brain Turns is a great first step to kind of getting involved with these communities and meeting people. And we all know that, unfortunately, it's not always a level playing field when it comes to these things, when it comes to medicine, when it comes to neurology, neurosurgery, et cetera. But the only way that it gets better is if we keep bringing in more diverse people. And the more diverse our healthcare workforce is, the better outcomes we will have for our patients. So, um, I myself have experienced a great deal of imposter syndrome along the way. I'm sure people on this call can relate to that. Um, and I would just say, the best way to overcome that is to keep showing up to things like these, and to just remember that you have a place here and there's a patient down the line that needs you. They need a doctor that looks like you, to give them the best care possible. So just remember that, and don't let anybody tell you that you don't belong.